So let's talk about Grace Tame. Rather than mansplain the situation, we all know what it is. Jenna, she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew the endorphins that would come as a result of it. She later takes a photo with Albo. What did you think? It's pretty obviously rude, but what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think it was pretty interesting, the fact that in the lead up to what had happened at the Lodge this morning, she was posing with Sarah Hanson-Young, and then there was Albo posts, and then the True Advocate, the front page that she posted as well. Look, I think a lot of people, you're either on the side that it was disrespectful or good on her for being authentic. I'm on the side of I just want more people to be authentic in Australia, and I think that's probably the most authentic thing we've seen at the Lodge since Hazel Hawke, so good on her. But again, I think Grace Tame has done an incredible job for the women and men of Australia in her advocacy around child sexual abuse, and basically saying that people shouldn't be silenced when it comes to talking about things like this. But I think what we need to do as women specifically in Australia now is we need to take up her mantle of what she has carved out with her campaign. And if we really want to punish the Prime Minister and the Coalition, we need to do it come the federal election and make it a federal election issue and a campaign, and take it out on them at the ballot box.
Erin, what do you think of it?
Oh, look, I think you can be authentic while still being semi-polite and showing respect. I think, look, Grace Tame is an incredible human being. She's been incredibly brave and gone through living hell, and she's used an experience that was really awful to try and push for change, which I have an enormous amount of respect for. I guess the question that I would have, and she's been in the spotlight now for 12 months, she knows exactly how the media works. She knows exactly what the reaction to today would have been. My question to her would be, what did you want to achieve out of that, Grace? What was the objective of that this morning? We know you don't like Scott Morrison, and you are absolutely well within your rights not to like Scott Morrison or not to agree with the government, but I just don't think that has advanced her cause in any way. And prime example, we're sitting here now not talking about what she's done to try and end violence against women, or not talking about what the next steps in that are, and you won't find anyone more passionate about that than me. We're sitting here talking about Grace Tame's facial expression, and that's an own goal in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I know that there is no form of words that mean I'm going to pass the appropriate test to have an opinion, but screw that. I'm going to have an opinion, all right? Which is, we've all stood next to people that we vehemently disagree with. There's ways to show you, if the ultimate disdain is to not turn up to the event, right? If she wants to pull the trick, pull this, fine, Twitter goes nuts, everyone goes crazy. But then we showed before a segment from The Project, Jenna, where literally two people on the show are virtually screaming at Peter Van Onselen for having the opinion that it was offensive. And that automatically, if you think it was offensive, then you don't care about sexual assault victims. That's just garbage.
Yeah, look, I'm actually just really thrilled that we're all having these discussions out in the open. And look, do I wish that we could take the temperature down and have a civil debate about it? And I know civility is a very big issue today, given the actions of Grace Tame at the Lodge. But look, I think it's at the end of the day, she's brought all of these issues to the fore. But and again, just to reiterate my point, if she knew that what she was doing is going to take off on social media, the ultimate test of whether her tenure and her actions for the past couple of months have actually cut through to wider Australia will be at the federal election. Because if women's issues are really front of mind, like they appear to be on social media, then we will expect to see a massive swing against the Coalition at the federal election.
Okay, but we've talked about this before, and again, it's dangerous territory. But guess who has been chosen very strategically by the National Press Club to be giving addresses at the start of February? Grace Tame, Brittany Higgins will be there. Now, all of this was originally linked to a book launch, which was supposed to be happening in February. I don't know if criminal trials mean that's not going to happen, but also that was a booking that was made off an expectation of a March election, with the expectation that it would distract Australian politics for a full week. Now, Erin, we can't pretend that there are some actors in all of this who are using good people as battering rams to achieve a political end, because it's not about policy. Because they would be just as vocal about the Labor Party and its historic problems, but instead it's about one person, one government, and some assumption that even a government that's given all the money, said all the right things, changed all the right policies, that somehow a change to another government is the only way you're going to change the behaviour of people in the middle of the night.
Oh, of course, and that there is, there's never an issue in this country that is not politicised, and particularly in the lead up to an election. This is such a serious issue, though. I don't think anyone can argue that violence against women, sexual violence, is not a really serious issue.
Of course.
But it's not just the fault of one side of government. It's not just the fault of government. You mentioned at the start of your show about the complaints that were made within the Labor Party about issues that women within there had. And you're exactly right. If you're going to tackle this seriously and you're going to be fair dinkum about this being a real issue, you got to do it across the political divide. Everywhere. You can't use it politically, and that's exactly what's being done.
Yeah, and that's my thing, Jenna, where while I'm not a fan, and I know Clive Palmer is, bad billionaire, and I know that he's trying to, achieve a personal, but he's running in 150 seats. Voices of's not running in 150 seats. There's not a women's right advocacy that's going to run in every single Senate. They're not being strategic. And by them, I'm not talking about Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins. I'm just saying about those who claim policy difference. But there's also one little other thing that I wanted to point out here again. My head's right in the lion's mouth. Don't care. I enjoy the temperature, which is, I think there is a slight generational thing here, right? Which doesn't let Grace Tame off the hook, but it explains how people view this. There are people under the age of 35 who think everyone over the age of 35 is part of the problem, man, and you're the boomers, man. And everyone under the age of 35 says it's okay to give the boomers the middle finger, right? And that seems to also be how it plays out here. What do you reckon, Jenna?
Yeah, look, to add on to your point as well previously, it's not just, this is not a Liberal, a National, a Labor thing, it's also the Greens. Look at what happened with the New South Wales portion of that party a couple of years ago. Like this is everywhere, yeah. I think it's definitely a generational thing. I think when you probably did an unscientific poll of people who thought Grace Tame did a great thing today and the people who thought she did a terrible thing, the age of that person agreeing or disagreeing with that argument will definitely come into play there. I think it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens next. Again, it's kind of like, and not to bring in another very hot topic, but it's it's the change the date issue. It only really flares up when something happens in the media or something happens on social media. Why aren't we having these discussions 24/7 if we are really adamant about change? And I think we need to take some personal responsibility about the way that we deal with gender in our own backyards, in our own homes, and how we raise our children, how we talk to our loved ones. That's where I think change and generational change between men and women in this country will happen.
But Erin, here's the truth, right? We don't have the conversation anymore because the conversation is boring. You either get it or you don't. And if you don't, then you must be exiled from the village, go, see you later, off with your head. But of course, there's all of this nuance, and perfect example, right? Not playing victim, just explaining a situation, right? So the night that the Sex Discriminations Commissioner report came out into the culture at Parliament House, we talked about it on the show because it was the biggest issue of the day. We happened to have an all-male panel, despite the fact that I said to camera, I would die for the women in my life. What do you reckon Media Watch talked about the next day? It was only about, look at it, Evil Sky News. And again, you get it, you don't get it, price of not getting it is off with your head. That's the point here, is that we're not having a conversation. We're having a screaming match where one side is deified and another is demonised.
Well, people You go, Jenna,
Erin.
You go.
Oh, you're all too polite. Erin, then Jenna.
Go.
Look, I think you're exactly right, and social media is one of the biggest culprits in this. Not only does everyone now have a voice, but everyone now feels completely qualified to make judgments on areas that often is the case they know absolutely nothing about. And I find that in this day and age, we don't have discussions, we don't have debates, we don't have conversations. You feel the way you feel like you are absolutely right in that. There is no ground or room to move on that issue. And if someone disagrees with you, then you put them into a category, and that's that.
Yeah. Well, also the idea that being the victim of anything is different depending on your politics. The smart way to play this, and I'm just saying this is free advice to anyone who gets a golden opportunity like Grace Tame got, right? Which is, if you don't pick a side, then everyone wants a piece of you. When you pick a side, then half of the room will feel either that they don't want to interact with you, or they're afraid of reaching out to you. If you sit above the fray, then you end up as somebody who, when you open your mouth, the country goes, thank goodness for you. Problem is, in internet world, no one is rewarded for such nuance whatsoever.